You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Sarees. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Episode 43, Speaking Bangla. Hello, language lovers. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Speaking Tongues, the podcast in conversation with multilinguals. My guest this week is Sausan, the creator of Learn Bangla, an online resource for learning the Bangla language and for learning about culture in Bangladesh. In this episode, Sausan tells me about the ways Bangla stands out as a language in South Asia. We learned about how she typically approaches language lessons with her students, and we learn how the Bangla language becomes the catalyst for UNESCO's International Mother Language Day. Sausan also tells us about life in Bangladesh, from how the parties and festivals are celebrated, the beauty of the landscape, think mangrove forests and royal Bengal tigers, and how the people in Dhaka celebrate some Western holidays like Halloween and Valentine's Day. We also had a moment to discuss artisanship and share our laments on the way handmade goods are viewed in modern society. Big thank you to Sausan for sharing your language and culture with me and with our listeners, and for such an insightful conversation. As always, if you enjoy this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review the Speaking Tongues podcast on Apple Podcasts so that other language lovers like ourselves can find the show. Okay, let's chat. How are you, Sausan?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here and happy to have this conversation with you. And I like to start each episode with the same question, and that is, what is your first language and how many languages do you speak?
Okay, awesome. So my first language is Bangla. So because my parents speak Bangla, and then I speak 5 languages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which 5?
Hindi, Urdu, English, a little bit of Arabic, and then Bangla. So that's 5.
So cool. So what languages did you hear spoken in your home or in your community when you were growing up?
So I am one of those third culture kids. So I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. Because of that, I heard Bangla in my house, but in school, it was mostly English, and the students in the class were usually Arabs or Pakistanis. So I heard Urdu or Arabic from the students, and the teachers would speak English. And then in the stores and, just day-to-day life, it was usually Arabic or English outside. So Bangla was pretty much, just something I learned at home.
Mm-hmm. When you were living in Saudi Arabia, did you have a lot of, I guess, family friends or any family that was living by you that also spoke Bangla, or was it just mainly your what was in your household?
Yeah. So so my school friends were not Bengali, but my parents' friends, they were Bengali. So our family friends were Bengali, and then they would have kids, right? And we would speak to them in Bangla also.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Were you able to, I guess, with your family and their friends, were you all able to uphold any Bengali customs or any type? Yeah, like what was that like, experiencing that in Saudi Arabia?
It was really nice, actually. So the community, they used to, so with the elder people, it was polite to speak to them in Bangla, and it was impolite to speak to them in English, So we were kind of, we had to make sure that we can speak it. Whereas, I think in the Western world, I've noticed that the kids, they do speak to elders in English as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but over there it wasn't like that. So we kind of were forced to learn the language, which is great now. Now I realize the importance of it. And then there were lots of cultural programs whenever there was like the Independence Day or the New Year. So that's the Bengali New Year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Programs like that, there would be cultural events where there would be songs, dances, and um, we would try as much as possible, like the elders would try as much as possible to teach us the songs, to teach us the dances, and then we would try to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool that you were able to still have that cultural exposure, even in
Yes.
the country. Um,
Yes, definitely.
so in school, your instruction was mostly in English, or it was totally in English, right?
Yes, it was totally in English.
So what was that like? And I guess, yeah, what was that like?
It was very cool. Like I think I didn't even understand back then because we grew up exposed to that. But now, like I see that when I speak English or when I speak Bangla, um, I don't have to think and talk. They come very natural to me. Um, my first, when you say what's your language, it could pretty much be English or Bangla
Right.
because I'm just so fluent in both of them. Yeah.
Hmm. And how did you learn to speak Hindi and Urdu?
Because my class friends were
Oh,
from other countries, right? So
mhm.
they would speak their language among themselves, and I'm hanging out with them, I'm hearing it, so I learned it.
That's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
is Now, I'm going to get into this in a second, but I'm going to ask you because I'm thinking of it right now. But is Bangla very different from Hindi and Urdu?
So this is the cool part where there are similarities, but there are differences as well.
Hmm.
Because basically, Bangla is an Indo-Aryan language, which eventually evolved into many dialects in the entire subcontinent. So this Urdu, North Indian languages, they are Indo-Aryan languages. So
Hmm.
there are similarities between them. But then the South Indian languages, which are basically Dravidian languages,
Hmm.
those are very different from Bangla, but there are a few words which are similar. But it's different enough to be like non-recognizable.
Right.
So yeah, and then also like Hindi, Urdu, they have genders for objects. Like a table can be a male or a female.
Yeah.
Um, Teacups can be male or female, but for Bangla there isn't genders like that.
Oh, very
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it's different like that.
Yeah.
So
I was
yeah.
wondering because I'm thinking if your first language is Bangla and you've picked up, or one of your first languages is Bangla and you were able to pick up Hindi and Urdu, I was just wondering, like you were able to pick it up just by listening to your friends. Like you didn't.
But we were kids, right? We grew up. A child has a very large absorbing power versus an adult.
Hmm.
Yeah. So ever since kindergarten, we're listening to all these different languages.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, just because this is something that I kept tripping over when I was doing research for this episode, but do we ever refer to the language as Bengali?
I am so glad you asked that question. Yeah. So basically, the English language, they coined the word Bengali.
Mm,
Okay, so me as as a as a as a Bengali, we say the language is Bangla.
right.
So in my opinion, they changed that word and made it Bengali, you know?
Hmm.
So I would prefer people would call it by its original name, Bangla. There's nothing hard in that word. There's nothing hard in Bangla. So
Yeah.
why not just leave it as Bangla and not change it into Bengali?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that because when I admit like I've always thought of it and heard or referred to it as Bengali.
Hmm.
No. And um when
Yeah, that's okay.
I was like, you were saying Bangla, but a lot of what I was finding online was Bengali, Bengali, Bengali. So it's like, let me just ask her, um, and make
Yeah.
it clear it up for us. So
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I heard again with doing research for this episode about Bangla, and you mentioned this also when we talked before, um, but Bangla language is recognized by UNESCO. What is the significance of that and how did it come about?
Okay, so that's a great question and a very important one. So basically, um, Bangla was spoken in several countries by 250 million Bangladeshi speakers all over the world, and it's the seventh most spoken language in the world. And this was spoken by several states, both in India and in Bangladesh. Now, before Bangladesh came into being, it was East Pakistan. So there was West Pakistan. They spoke Urdu.
Hmm.
East, yeah, West Pakistan who spoke Urdu, and then East Pakistan, which was us, and we spoke Bangla. And then, because it was still, Pakistan, and the language of Pakistan is Urdu, the government announced that um, the language should be Urdu all over, both in East Pakistan and West Pakistan.
Oh
So
no.
at that point, East Pakistan, there's so many people, right?
Yeah.
They stated that there should be two national languages. There should be Urdu and Bangla on an equal level.
Hmm.
And this led to a war. This ended up in a riot. There was open firing. So many people died. Um, so there was basically martyr happening to save the language. And then, because of that, to recognize that day, the UNESCO officially announced um, 21st February 1952 as the Language Movement Day and the International Mother Language Day, because this is the only country which gave their life for the language.
Oh wow.
And the best part is this day is celebrated both by Indian states such as Assam, Calcutta, as well as Bangladesh.
Mm.
Yeah, because their language was preserved.
That's so like weird that I always found like the partition of India and Pakistan to be like one of the worst things that's happened in history, right? Like people
Yeah,
died and people like lost their homes and their families and stuff. And now it's crazy that you're telling me that Bangladesh was just arbitrarily called what, East Pakistan? Like
yeah, East Pakistan, East Pakistan.
doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
Yeah,
oh my God. I have to read so much more about that because I read a lot about partition of India and Pakistan, but I knew nothing about Bangladesh being like
yeah,
not even close to one another. Like it doesn't make any sense.
yeah. We're not the same at all.
Yeah.
And then the sad part is like there's so many people from Calcutta who speak Bangla, right? Um, they have families now divided. They have families in Bangladesh. They have families in Calcutta. They travel back and forth. Uh, Now the traveling is so easy.
Yeah.
You just get on a train and go ahead. But before it was so difficult. Their families were divided. They couldn't see them.
That's really strange. And it makes me wonder like why I'm looking at a map right now just so I can be 100% like understanding what I'm looking at. But like it's so close to like this modern border of Bangladesh and it just seems so arbitrary, because Kolkata is like
Yes.
it's a huge city, like
Yeah.
this is a conversation for another show.
Yeah.
um,
And when you go to Kolkata, um, you'll feel like you'll feel like it's the same country. You don't even feel like you came to a different place.
mm, I've heard
Yeah.
that like Kolkata is like really unique and
Yeah.
not like any other city in India. For
Yes.
size, like it's just very unique for the size of city that it is. So
Yes.
that must be the reason why.
Yeah, it's different. Calcutta is different
Mhm.
from the rest of the cities. Yeah.
Very cool. Um, so you talked a little bit about this before, when I was asking you about the language, but what are some of like the big differences and similarities that you're aware of between Bangla and the languages spoken throughout Southeast Asia? And I guess, not just talking about their historical language families, but just maybe in the way that people speak, in the way that people use words, throughout their culture and they're part of the countries, they're part of the worlds.
Okay, so basically, Bangla does not have any similarity between the Southeast Asian languages, because the Southeast Asian languages would be like Chinese and Japanese, stuff like that, you know? So
Mm,
there's absolutely no similarity. But the South Asian languages, so if you look at um, Nepali language, the different dialects of Hindi, or the different dialects in India, not Hindi, sorry. And then in Sri Lanka, I guess what do they speak? Tamil.
yeah,
Uh, Sri Lanka has two languages there also. So over there, I would say Assamese language is closest to Bangla. Um, we're both from Sanskrit, so a lot of Sanskrit words are there. So the words are similar. When they speak Assamese, we can understand 100%. They can understand us as well. So Assamese, it's from Sanskrit. Ours has Sanskrit influence, so the words are similar.
mhm,
Um, the otherwise, like the South Indian languages, like the words are very different, except for maybe just a few. Uh, the North Indian languages, um, but as a Bengali, we can pick up the similarities. Um, like I guess they say pani, which is water, and we also say pani. Um, but other than that, like they have a lot of tenses, as I mentioned before. We don't have tenses for objects. It is a little bit different.
mhm,
It's just that our roots are similar, and a lot of the influences that came from here and there are similar.
right.
But you know how Urdu and Hindi are very similar.
Mhm.
You can understand each other. Bangla is not like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like to ask that question not because I want to lump everyone together, but because I think that it's very easy for people to lump everyone together. And I think it's helpful to have somebody say, like, this is why we stand out. This is why you can look at a map and think that we're all connected, but we're really not. So I'm glad that you
Yeah.
out because it's funny, like when I was getting ready for this episode, I remembered I worked with this girl who was from Bangladesh, and
Oh, nice.
she was super sweet. She had the most beautiful saris. Like she would send me her she would show me pictures like when she would go out every weekend, and she just had the most beautiful and I'd always say to her like, when am I going to come over and try on your try on, and she's like, no, I don't let anybody touch them. But anyway, I used I used to listen to her talking to her husband over the phone. And I remember when I first met her, and I was nervous to say like, where are you from? Like, what language are you speaking? And I got to know her a little bit better, and like eventually she told me, and I said, this is why, like, I don't recognize any of the sounds that she's making because I'm used to hearing Urdu. I'm used to hearing Hindi, if not
Mm-hmm.
from movies and from just, being around New York City. But I had never heard anybody speaking Bangla before. So I was just like,
Yes.
I would go to her like almost like at least once or twice a week and just ask her something new about her country, about her, like, show me pictures, show me like how you guys do all of this stuff. And like, she was really open to like explain a lot. Um,
But that's so cool that you're so interested, you know?
yeah,
I think more people should be like that. That's so cool.
I think she kind of thought I was weird at first, like, why do you care so much? And it's just because I literally never had an opportunity to talk to somebody who was born in Bangladesh and lived there. And she lived there till she was like 10. And
Nice.
yeah, it's like I just wanted to know everything, but that's how I am. Like, I'm just so curious about so much of the world that I may never get to see,
Exactly.
it,
Exactly.
or to just ask people. Because when you ask, like, you find that a lot of people are willing to share.
Yes, absolutely. And it's comes from the interest. I think when somebody asks you or anybody else about your own country, I mean it's such an honor, you know? You
Mhm.
feel good about it.
Yeah, definitely. So having been said, I told you my brief little brush with Bangladeshi culture, but
Mhm.
me about your culture. Tell me about how your culture stands apart. You mentioned it's so different. Um, we were talking about Calcutta and how
Mhm.
it's very similar to Bangladeshi culture, but what are some things about the culture that you would want people to know, that they may not be aware of?
So basically, our culture is very festive, okay, which of course the entire, I think, Indian subcontinent, we're very festive. We just need a reason to celebrate. So there is something called Poila Falgun, Poila Falgun, and Boshanto Utsav. This is the first day of spring. So everybody, the entire country, they're wearing yellow, orange, or red. These are the colors which symbolizes spring.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it looks amazing because when you're out in the streets, from the child to the oldest man, they're wearing this color. It's so color coordinated. Um, so I think that's very unique. And then there's something that's very special in Bengal. It's that we really have a lot of peace between religions. So the Muslims and the Hindus, these two are the larger religious sects in Bengal. The Christians are a smaller sect, and there's a lot of peace between them. So during the Eid, I've seen Hindu Bengalis celebrating Eid with us, exchanging gifts, wearing new clothes. During Durga Puja, the tradition of Durga Puja is to wear white sari with a red border.
Oh,
Yeah, Durga Puja. So the entire country will be selling these saris, and both like a lot of non-Hindu people will also be buying the saris and wearing it and respecting this occasion.
yeah.
And it's also a government holiday. See, like in Bengal, they give government holidays for Christmas, for Eid, for Durga Puja, for the um, Hanukkah. Yeah, so they try to, as much as possible, keep keep equality between different religions. So that's kind of cool. Other than that, there's something called Nobonno Utsav. Nobonno Utsav is very cool. It's done mostly in the farming locality. So the farmers, the day they harvest their wheat,
Hmm.
they hold a big celebration. They come home with all their harvest and they invite their neighbors, their friends. There will be a small mela. We call it a mela.
Hmm.
Um, in English, it's called fair. So there will be a small fair where children will play, they'll buy things. They'll be selling pitha. Pitha is a special type of food,
Mm.
Bengali food. Um,
What is it?
it Pitha is kind of like a sweet, but it's not too sweet, and it's made with rice flour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's pitha, they'll have pitha, they'll have these little games. So that's Nabonna Utsav. So a lot of our utshav means celebration. A
Mm.
lot of our utshav revolves around harvesting and farming because it's mostly an agricultural landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these two I think are very special. Other than that, some of our landscapes are very special, which is like the Sundarban. Sundarban is it's a mangrove forest.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the home of the Royal Bengal tigers.
Oh,
And this mangrove forest is the largest continuous span of mangrove forest. Like usually mangrove forests, they're in small sectors. It's not a continuum, but this is like the largest continuum of mangrove forest.
oh wow.
Yeah, and it's so big. See, this is the thing. I don't know why this partition happened. It starts from Kolkata,
Uh-huh.
um, so I guess West Bengal, you could say. It starts from there and it ends in Bangladesh. So this whole forest is spanning this entire region, and in between there's like a break.
Wow. I'm still looking at the map, by the way. So but yeah, I see because you have that river delta there. So that
Yes, the Bay of Bengal is right there.
yeah, it's like it looks like it's like a really fertile area. So it
It
makes
is.
because you have the wait, what river is this? The Padma,
Podda River, Ganges River, and Brahmaputra.
Brahmaputra. Yeah.
Yeah, the three rivers come right here,
Yeah.
creating the Bay of Bengal. And so this part is really cool also because there are some uh, gods and goddesses
Mm-hmm.
with this Sundarban. And so the people living in Sundarban, there's very few people, but the people living there, they celebrate these god and goddesses, thinking that they have the power of controlling this mangrove forest, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Do you have a fair or festival or an occasion that is your favorite?
My favorite is actually two. One is this Poila Falgun, which I said is the first day of spring.
Mhm.
The other one is Noboborsho. Noboborsho is the Bengali New Year. And the cool part about Noboborsho is on that day, everybody wears white with a splash of colors on it.
Okay.
So both the guys and the girls, so the entire, everybody's wearing white with splash of colors on it. So Nobobarsh is also cool because that is celebrated throughout India. The different states, whether it's North India or South India, they celebrate it. They just call it by a different name, but
Okay.
it's the new year for everybody.
That's amazing. Does it matter what color? Or you can wear any color with the white?
Usually it's red or yellow,
Mhm.
but nowadays, they're trying to uh, put in other colors in there as well.
Right.
Yeah. You know. Yeah.
It's really amazing. I think it's like so interesting like when a culture has these kind of celebrations. It just makes it so much richer and
It does.
like for me who grew up in the States, like okay, we're used to like um you're in Vancouver, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, we're
Thanksgiving maybe for
yeah,
you guys.
Thanksgiving, 4th of July,
Halloween.
Halloween, Valentine's,
Yeah.
but it's really cool to like step outside of like North America and the United States in particular and see these big celebrations in other parts of the world. Like to me, it's amazing because it's very easy, I think, as an American to become very self-centered around what we celebrate. And I'm sure as a Canadian, like you can, someone living in Canada, you can notice this too. Like, you know,
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
like, but yeah, I think it's, for me, it's really important. And it's one of the most interesting things for me to be able to see how other cultures celebrate and enjoy their lives.
So let me tell you about this Western influence. I think you will find this interesting.
Mm.
So right now in Bangladesh, ever since the TV came into being, um, people start knowing about the Western culture, right? And so now, just recently, people have started doing Halloween,
Really?
and yeah, they've started doing Halloween just recently, though, like maybe 5 years or something.
So cool.
But we've been doing Valentine's Day. I think the minute somebody got to know about Valentine's Day, we started doing Valentine's Day, right? So, and it's huge, 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 huge. Every single human being is out on the streets wearing red, carrying flowers or a teddy bear or a balloon, and it's crazy. I mean, it's not so big even in America or Canada, you
Yeah.
know?
So how do they interpret Valentine's Day? Are they taking it like literally, like you said, like the way we do it, or like are they putting like the Bangla like flair with it? Are they making oh, how does it look?
I like the way you say Bangla flare. I think the Bangla flare comes in because the red that they're wearing. So
Mm.
girls would be wearing red saris,
Oh, okay.
um, and red salwar kameez. But usually they wear saris on that special day. But I guess salwar kameez also. Whereas I don't know. I guess in America they'd be wearing t-shirts or dresses, which are red.
Can I tell you something like just as an aside? I tell people
Yeah.
all the time like I wish that salwar was like popular here for like anyone because it's like the most comfortable thing and it looks so comfortable. And every time I see girls wearing, I'm like, God, I'm so jealous because you look so beautiful in the salwar kameez and comfortable at the same time. Like,
Well, thank you.
yeah, I feel like we're doing it all wrong because we have too many buttons and zippers and strings and stuff and like, you know, I just feel like it's just so much so much simpler. Not simpler, but like, it looks comfortable, but if you like when I see women wearing like salwar kameez or like even a sari, I'm like, it looks easy.
A sari is hard though.
No, it's hard, but it looks effortless, but it looks so gorgeous at the same time. Like I can't think of anything that like Western that looks easy and gorgeous at the same time. Think of something, let me know. But I have not thought of anything that I'm like, damn, this is comfortable and I look great, like
In the Western culture, the dresses, the long dresses, and the one piece long dress, those are very comfortable and beautiful.
I mean, they can be, but I think the quality of like the way the salwar kameez is made and the quality of like the way saris are made, like it just looks elevated to me.
Hmm.
I think that like here in the US, like okay, we could wear something that's long or elegant, but oftentimes the material, the quality won't be great, the pattern won't be pretty. It'll just be like really it'll be like really basic. I mean, I'm stumbling over what I'm trying to say, but I'm really trying to compliment like South Asian women because
Thank you.
this
You
thing
know,
it's just
I, and I think we need to hear things like that more, like from other people, because what happens to people who are living in South Asia, their entire life they're wearing salwar kameez. Their entire life they see their parents wearing saris, right? And then they start taking it for granted.
mm,
And the minute they see the any other culture things, they try to leave theirs behind
Mhm.
and jump to the other one, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's typical, especially when you're young. When you're young, you just want to do like the trendiest thing or you want to try to fit in with whatever's going on. So you
Hmm.
tend to turn your back on what your parents are doing anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've all done it. So one day I'm gonna learn how to like tie sari, and I really want to learn. And even though I'm really conscious about like cultural appropriation because I don't want to look like this girl is just like, okay, I'm black, I'm not Indian. So, I don't want people to think that I'm being disrespectful, I'm
Not at all. Are you kidding me? Well, I'll just let you know this way. Like the South Indians, right? The South Indians are dark skinned, and they were sorry, right?
yeah, that's true.
So the subcontinent, we don't have one color. Honestly, the Pakistanis are so fair. They're like the white Americans. The South Indians are, and the Sri Lankan people are darker. We are in between. I mean, come on. You know? Yeah.
And that's beautiful. I think that's what, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
Tell me what made you decide to start teaching Bangla? Yeah, where did you get started teaching Bangla?
I started back a long time ago, back in 2010. And I started on my YouTube channel, which is also like youtube.com/c/Learn Bangla. I started there because I had just graduated from university. I was in America back then,
Mhm.
and um, I had started a job. And after coming home from work, I did not feel fulfilled. I
Yeah.
just felt like I'm not contributing anything to this world. So I started teaching Bangla, and at that time there was absolutely no content at all online.
Mhm.
So I started teaching very simple things, and I still now I still focus on the spoken part of the language,
Right.
not the grammar or anything. So um, that's when I started because I thought that there was a need, and I was just overwhelmed by the number of people who were watching the videos and trying to learn. And all these people started messaging me who were either married to somebody who's Bengali, or they had a boyfriend who was Bengali,
Mm,
or they're going to go to Bangladesh to for job or university.
right.
And so there was a demand there. When I saw that, I continued it and ended up recently building some online courses.
I think
And
great.
I know I loved it. And then the best part is like, because I was in Saudi Arabia. I used to visit Bangladesh, but I never lived there.
Okay.
But when I finished my studies in the United States, I decided to move to Bangladesh, and then I lived there for about 7 years.
Oh,
And then I like really merged with the culture, with the people, and I could see all the things that people who don't live in Bangladesh, that they don't know about. And then I started incorporating all of that in my courses.
I think that's wonderful. And like you said, if it's, this is why I like to have these conversations with people from every language because a few people have told me that I've spoken to, they started teaching their language or they started learning a language and they had a hard time finding resources. They had a hard time finding the abundance of resources that can be found with something like Spanish or
Absolutely.
and I think that what you're doing is contributing to widening the understanding and the perception of your culture, and that's so important. Um, Tell me about some of your students. I mean, you mentioned some of them are going to they're coming to you because of jobs or of their love lives. They want to experience their Bengali Valentine's Day,
Hmm.
wear their red sari out on the street. Um, what is some of the motivation that they have for taking the step to learning Bangla?
So I asked this question to take, real-time feedback from the students. So I asked this question on my Instagram, the Learn Bangla Instagram. And so this is what Ali says. Ali says, I'm joining college in Bangladesh.
Hmm.
And Ivor is also joining medical college in Sylhet, Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Chahi, she's from Thailand. She's learning Bangla to understand her boyfriend.
Okay.
Um, Amal Gamet, I think he's Indian. Okay, if he's not, he's gonna kill me. But he's saying to understand Robindro Shongit and the lyrics of some Bangla songs. So
Oh,
Robindra Shongit is a type of Bangla song.
okay.
This is what he wrote. And then this lady, her name is Lynn. She wrote to be able to talk to my mother-in-law and have her feel comfortable to talk to me in return. And
Oh,
if we ever have kids, I would want them to know Bangla. Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Students have all kinds of reasons and
Yeah.
that's really great. So
Yeah, it's so cool.
when they come to you, what are some of the first things that you start teaching them? I know that you're focusing on the spoken Bangla. So how do you start? Like how do you what does a lesson look like with you?
So basically, I incorporate a lot of the culture in it. So maybe like I will do a video wearing a sari, so they know what a sari looks like, and I'll do it in a spot which has a little history behind it, right?
Mhm.
So like I've made videos in Cox's Bazar, for example. So Cox's Bazar is the longest sea beach in the world.
Really?
Yeah, that's the longest sea beach in the world. So I'll make a video in the Cox's Bazar, and then I tell them that okay, this is Cox's Bazar, is the longest sea beach in the world, and here I'm wearing a sari. This is our traditional dress, and then I'll start with the basic. The basic is usually like, how are you? Good morning, right? So how are you? Kemon acho? What is your name? Tomar naam ki? Shubho shakal. Good morning. Namaskar. Namaskar is like namaskar in Hindi. In Hindi, namaskar. In Bangla, is namaskar.
Namaskar.
Uh, Bangla again, it has sha. It doesn't have sa too much.
Oh.
Yeah, we have sha. That's why it's namaskar.
Oh.
Yeah.
So would you say shalwar kameez instead of salwar?
No, we say salwar kameez now.
Okay.
Yeah, but our letters actually did not have s before. It was sha. Yeah.
Interesting. Great.
So these kind of things, and then people, because of the this kind of students I have, I teach them আমি তোমাকে ভালোবাসি, like I love you.
Mm.
This one, I pun this at আমি তোমাকে ভালোবাসি. So this one is always very popular.
Yeah. I went to look at Cox's Bazaar and it's gorgeous. And I want everyone listening to Google it. It's
You
beautiful.
saw it online right now?
Yeah. It's beautiful. So everybody go look at it. But I think that's great. So you basically you start in something that's historically um known and something you want people to know about and then you start with the basics.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you think about the people, they always find interesting to know about a culture
Yeah.
rather than just words and memorizing the words and stuff. Yeah.
I know that you don't focus much on the grammatical part of the language. Do you have students who want that? Do you have students who want to understand the grammar better and how do you navigate that?
I've only had one student wanting to know the Bangla part, the Bangla grammar part,
Mhm.
and I wasn't able to help him. And he was so advanced. So he was he was this amazing guy. He was not Bengali, but his Bangla knowledge was more than mine. I was like, whoa, dude, you're up there. I can't reach you.
So for anybody who's listening and may want to take the first step into understanding Bengali culture and the learning the Bangla language, please tell us how we can get in touch with you.
So it's very easy to contact me. I have my Instagram page, which is Learn Bangla. They can message me there and I can find them. Other than that, I have my YouTube page, which is www.youtube.com/c/learn Bangla. And if they message me there, they can find me.
I will take your information and I will add it into the show notes. So for
Thank you.
anything and they just want to click right away and get in touch with you, they can do just that.
Thank you. Okay.
So
That just makes it easier.
yeah. Um, so I've heard that Bangla has a rich literary history. What are some of the well texts and writings in Bengali literature and tradition that are a part of the culture? Like something that no matter who I talk to from Bangladesh and any part of the world know about.
So the most famous person is Rabindranath Tagore, and he was the first non-European person who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. He
Wow,
also wrote the national anthem of Bangladesh as well as the national anthem of India. That's very cool.
that's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and other than that, there's Qazi Nazrul Islam. Qazi Nazrul Islam, he is a poet who is known as a rebel poet, and because he wrote a lot of poetry for independence,
Mm.
and he has a lot of songs. The songs are his genre of songs is called Nazrul Giti. There's Begum Rokeya. She's a female and she used to write about women in the society, progressive women in the society. She even wrote this thing called Sultana's Dream, which was about a land being ruled by women only.
Oh.
Yeah, so many years back, and they had these dreams. Um, then there's Ishwar Chandra Bidyasagar. So he was given the title Bidyasagar. Bidyasagar means ocean of knowledge.
Hmm.
He was given this title Bidyasagar because he simplified and modernized the Bangla language which we know today, the Bangla writings
Right.
which we know today. Um, and then one more person, I guess, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. He wrote something like Raj Mohan's wife, that was English. He even wrote Bangla, which is called Bankim. Um, so, he wrote both English literature and Bangla literature, which was the same with Rabindranath Tagore as well and Begum Rokeya.
Hmm.
Um, and these were very, very well known at that time until today. They made a legacy of it. The other thing, which is a little bit different, is folk traditions. So, folk music um, is the strongest in entire South Asia, in Rajasthan
Yeah.
and Bengal.
Yeah.
So only these two states, Rajasthan and Bengal, folk tradition. Um, so there's, when you say folk tradition, there are different genre of music. So Bhatiyali Gan, Polli Gan, and they're usually sung by people. Some famous folk singers would be Momtaz Begum, Kiran Chandra Roy. So there's a lot of folk singers, but I'm mentioning these two who are very, very popular
Mhm.
as folk singers.
Why do you think that the folk tradition is so rich in Bangladesh and in Rajasthan?
I don't know, I don't know why it's so rich. It is very, very different. The kind of the lyrics in it is very much something that pertains to everyday life.
Mm.
Um, but the type of music that they do, the way they sing, it's very different from any hip hop or even Nozrul Giti, which I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Very different from that. And when the folk singers, when they sing, they don't just sing, they do a performance. You know how Michael Jackson does a performance, right? So
Yeah.
they do a performance, and it just drives all the people crazy. um, I didn't realize how big folk music was until I was living in Bangladesh, and I decided to go like, okay, let's check out a folk music.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being raised up, abroad, I was more used to hip hop, right?
Right.
And um, at that time, like my generation is the Britney Spears generation, so I'm into these. And I'm like, folk music, it's so different. It sounds different. And okay, let me see. My friends made me go there. I was amazed at the audience. They're like, they would just go crazy, crazy, crazy about the folk singers. And folk singers, folk musicians, they're usually people who grew up in very small towns and very local. Their songs are very localized, so
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting like these people who are in the cities living a city life, you know. um,
What city were you in?
I was in Dhaka city,
Okay.
the
Cool.
the capital. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The city life there, they're different, they're I mean, I think you can imagine big city people, right?
Tell me everything about Dhaka.
um Dhaka is a very, very crowded city,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very modern. Um, Most people speak Bangla. Um, they have a big Western influence in there in
What's
Dhaka.
typical like way to maybe hang out with your friends?
Oh, so our biggest hangout spot. So that being a capital city, we have less parks. You have to go a little bit outskirts of the city to find parks. And Bengal in general is a very lush green place. You know, it's crazy green.
Because of the
But
rivers.
yeah, there's so many rivers, and there's that Sundarban, right? Uh, so, but they've turned the capital city into a very metropolitan place with very little parks. So people end up hanging in coffee shops, restaurants. These are the biggest hangout spots.
Mhm.
Um, Coffee shops, we have mostly our own coffee chains, but there is two Western chain. One is Gloria Jean's Coffee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the other one is North End Coffee. These are two Western. Starbucks did not make it there.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Last thing
Yeah.
I need is another Starbucks. So I'm happy Gloria Jeans made it.
Yeah, so these are the hangout spots. Yeah.
Well, Sausan, this conversation has been so much fun to have, and I'm so happy that you were able to make the time to talk with me today. I,
No, thank you for having me. It was so exciting. It was so interesting.
I like to end each episode with the same question, and that is, do you have any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, or words of advice in Bangla to share? And you have to teach it to me too, because I just realized I didn't try any Bangla this whole time. So I'm ready to try what you want to say.
Okay. Um, so one of the jokes, this one actually you could apply to any Bengali, and they would love you for this one. It's called mache bhate Bengali.
Mache,
Mache
uh-huh.
bhate
Hate,
bhate Bengali.
pate Bangali.
Yeah. So mach means fish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bhat is rice. So Bengali people eat fish and rice. Like this this is an idiom. Like if you see a Bengali, you say mache bhate Bengali. This is what we're made of. Fish and rice. That's what we're made of. Yeah. And the funny part is I don't like fish. So then every time I tell this to anybody, they'll be like, "How are you a Bengali?"
Like the
Yeah.
What's like a popular way that they prepare fish in Bangladesh?
Um, I think they use the, like a curry powder. They cut up the fish, right? And then onions, curry powder, turmeric powder, chilies, and then they fry it in the oil.
Oh
Yeah.
my
They
God.
might add a little bit of potatoes. So the interesting thing here about fish is that the Bengal has is the only one who has Ilish mach, the only place which has Ilish mach. So Ilish in
Mhm.
English is hilsa.
Hilsa.
Yeah, hilsa. That's the only fish um, that is found. This fish is only found in the Bengal. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've had this fish before. I was
Yeah,
gonna
you would probably find it in the Bengali stores or something.
Oh yeah, I could probably go. There's a neighborhood not far from me that is very South Asian. Like you can find things from like the girl I was telling you about before. I would ask her about her jewelry all the time and she'd say, "Just go to Jackson Heights. Like they'll have it. They have everything."
Exactly.
So, I don't think I've ever had it and I was going to ask you what this Ilish tastes like. Um but you don't like fish. So you're not the person to ask. But is that like the most popular fish dish that you would find in Bengal? What
Yeah. And
what
it becomes expensive nowadays because due to climate change,
oh no.
uh, less of them are being able to produce eggs.
No.
So it's becoming rare. I hope it doesn't get extinct. And so then the price keeps increasing every time it becomes rare. Yeah.
And that sucks because I'm back to my map now and I'm looking at these rivers going through Bangladesh and it's like if that fish is gone,
I
then
know.
oh, like a city that relies on rivers is really, really, I mean, a city or a country
Yeah.
rivers is really important and that ecosystem cannot change because a lot of people's lives will change with it, you know? It's in bad ways too. My gosh. You make me want to visit now. I want to go. Do any tours?
So my future plan is to start tours through Calcutta and Bangladesh because I know both the places, and I think being not from Bangladesh, I can identify what is exciting to people.
Absolutely, for sure.
I really want to do that. And the other project I have in mind is the local artisans.
Mm.
Um,
I saw that you were putting your the fabric, right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
I really want to help the local artisans to be able to sell their product. Nowadays, all this manufacturing industries have taken over the market,
Hmm.
and I want to bring back the handicrafts.
I really love that because like my so for example, like my mom's family is from the Bahamas and
Wow, isn't that like an island?
yeah, yeah.
My God, a
And
beautiful place.
it's very beautiful. And I remember when I was a kid, it was very unique, very like you know, there were a lot of artisanal is not the right word. There were a lot of artisan crafts and they used to do a lot with straw. They would make bags and, you know, places
Uh-huh.
like that. And this is in the 80s. So like now I go back and I don't go back as often as I used to, but when I go back, it's like everything is like made in China. You don't see a lot of people making the stuff from hand. Like I used to see them on the street making stuff by hand when I was,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't see that.
Because they've been wiped out.
Right, and it's like the Bahamas is so close to Florida, is so close to the United States, so there's so much, like, of the US culture that's become part of their culture as well, and I noticed,
Mm-hmm.
like, a movement with, like, a lot of the younger generation, um, to really bring back authentically Bahamian things, and I try to support as many of them as I can and, like, try to get the word out, but I'm always so supportive of stuff like that because we can't all be, the United States or England, like all over the world. Like,
Exactly, right?
to be our own people, like everybody. And that's what's so beautiful is the culture that makes, Bangladesh different than Pakistan, than India, than Sri Lanka. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
instead of like, I don't know. I'm saying all that just to say I 100% support this effort. I think it's amazing. If I can do anything to help you, let me know.
Thanks. I hope I can eventually launch it. I really want to. During Eid, there would be special announcements on TV saying, if each of you, in Eid, we all buy new clothes,
Mhm.
okay? And not one new cloth, maybe, I don't know, three minimum. So on TV, they would say, please buy one Bangladeshi cloth from your local, person, because these people are dying out.
Yeah.
These people cannot support their family. They need to celebrate Eid as well. And why are they making this announcement every time? Because all the people are going and buying like foreign stuff. You
Yeah.
know,
Right. Right.
it's really sad.
Sausan, thank you so much again for having this conversation with me. It was you a lot in this short hour we've been talking. Um, really quickly, I want to ask you, what is the best way in Bangla to say goodbye?
Oh, so honestly speaking, we say goodbye as bye.
Mm,
But um, the other way to say is tata.
tata.
Yeah, ta-ta, like that. Tata. Yeah. Muslims say Khuda Hafiz.
Khoda Hafiz.
Yeah.
I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Muslims say Khuda Hafiz. But a very common way of saying is Tata.
Tata. Nice, short and sweet. I like it. So Sausan, tata. I will.
Thanks for having this.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be talking to you soon.